Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing this super cute coffee cup granny square as the next installment of the Bake Shop blanket series. So I'm using an H 5mm hook and some worsted weight yarn, as always with most of these squares. That's what we'll be using. And you're going to start with a slip knot. I'm doing baby pink color in Vanna's Choice yarn, but you can start with any color that you want your coffee cup to be. We're making the cup part to begin with. So go ahead and chain 5, and then we're going to single crochet in the first chain from our hook. There's our first single crochet, and then keep single crocheting across. So you should have 4 single crochets in this first row. And then chain 1 and turn. We're starting with the bottom of the coffee cup and working our way up. So we chained 1 and turn. We're going to single crochet increase in this first stitch, so that's working 2 single crochets in that same first stitch, and then 2 regular single crochets, 1 in each of the next stitches. So a single crochet increase, single crochet, and then we'll single crochet increase once again in the last stitch here. So 2 more single crochets in that last stitch. So that finishes row 2, and then we'll chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to do a similar thing in row 3. We're going to start with a single crochet increase and end with a single crochet increase, and then in the middle we'll have 4 single crochets. So increase, 1 single crochet in each of the next 4 stitches, and then single crochet increase in the last stitch, so 2 single crochets in that same last stitch. There's 1 and 2, so that's it for row 3. We can see how this bottom of the teacup or coffee cup is looking. Chain 1 and turn. And then we're just going to single crochet in each stitch across. So we should have 8 stitches in this row, row 4. So we should have 8 plain single crochets here. If at this point you don't have 8 single crochets, definitely go back and see where you miscounted or have an extra stitch somewhere. So chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to do another row with a single crochet increase on each end. So in the first stitch and the last stitch of the row, single crochet increase. And then in each stitch in the middle, just 1 single crochet in each stitch. So what that should look like for this row is increase, 6 single crochets, and then an increase at the end. Chain 1 and turn. We can see the shape that this is taking. And then we're going to just single crochet across. So we should now have 10 stitches. Don't do any increases on this row. We should have 10 single crochets all the way across, and we're going to do this for 2 rows. So this row and the next row, we're just going to do a line of 10 single crochets with a chain 1 and turn. This pattern is a little bit back and forth and all over the place just to get that kind of oblong semicircle shape. It's not like a perfect semicircle. I wanted it to be a little bit more true to like a coffee cup shape. So in order to do that, we kind of have to go back and forth between increasing and not increasing and all of that. So I definitely want to make sure to give you guys a video tutorial so that you can make sure that as you go it is matching up with how mine is, just because it is a little bit confusing with each row kind of being a little bit different. So here we are finishing that second row of just plain single crochets. Chain 1. And here we're going to do our color change. So go ahead and pull that last stitch out because we want to color change to brown for the coffee or tea that's in our cup here with our last yarn over before we pull through on that last single crochet of the row. So we yarn over with the brown, pull through and finish that single crochet, and then chain 1, and you can pull your tails nice and tight. Don't finish off the pink here or whatever color you're using for the teacup go ahead and just leave it because we're going to be picking up that yarn and working with it later. So now we just chained 1 and turn, and we're going to do 2 rows of single crochets. So there should again be 10 stitches here. Here we are finishing that second row of single crochets, and at this point we can finish off that brown. We're done working with it. If you didn't want to add the brown here, you could do a lighter brown to do tea. You could do a green for green tea if that's what you like, to just kind of personalize it. I did more of a coffee cup kind of motif. So we're going to move those tails out of the way. We're going to pick up this pink yarn. So we're going to insert our hook on that last row of pink, right where our pink yarn is still hanging out, and we're going to chain 1, and then we're just going to single crochet all the way around our coffee cup and all of those stitches. You're only going to do 2 single crochets in each of the top 2 corners. So the 2 top corners of that brown, so the first and last stitches of that last row of brown single crochets, go ahead and do 2 single crochets of the pink in each of those, but coming around the bottom, just do 1 single crochet in each stitch. So here we are coming around. We're going to chain 5 right before we slip stitch into our first single crochet. So when you've gotten almost all the way back around, you're almost ready to slip stitch into our first single crochet of our perimeter stitching. Go ahead and chain 5, and we're going to make the handle of our teacup or coffee cup. So after you've chained 5 and slip stitch to that first single crochet, chain 1 and turn, and then we're going to work 5 single crochets into the chain space here. So I didn't work directly into the stitches. If you prefer doing that, that's totally fine. I just prefer working into the chain space itself. I think it gives it a little bit of a cleaner look, and it's just easier for me, quite honestly, to not work into the chain stitches themselves. And then just slip stitch into that top corner of your coffee mug or the single crochet right next to your handle, and we can go ahead and finish off this pink yarn at this point, and that is it for the teacup or coffee cup motif center or applique if you wanted to use this as an applique for something. So at this point we're just going to go ahead and do our granny square portion, so go ahead and get whatever yarn color you'd like to use. I'm just using a pure white for my granny square stitches, and you're just going to go ahead and get that yarn, and I started in the top right corner of the teacup or coffee cup. So we're just going to go ahead and chain up 2, work 2 single crochets, and then chain 3 and work 3 more single crochets, all in the same stitch, all in that same top corner. This is the same method that we have followed for all of the Bake Shop squares. It's always going to be the same method as far as starting and completing your granny square stitches. So if you need any additional help with the granny square clusters, the corner clusters and side clusters as I call them, please go ahead and make sure to check out my traditional granny square video. I made a bonus traditional granny square tutorial video that gives you everything you need to know, and will make a traditional granny square that is the same size as all of our Bake Shop blanket squares. So if you need help with this step, please make sure to check that out. I wanted to slow this down right here for just a second and show you where exactly I'm placing this side cluster under the handle of the teacup. I'm not stitching into the handle itself. I'm kind of pushing it out of the way and doing my side cluster here on the side of the mug or cup to right behind the handle. If you stitch into the handle, it's going to pull the square and make it kind of a strange oval shape on one side, and it's not going to be a nice symmetrical square because your mug is not symmetrical if you are stitching into that handle. So make sure that you're stitching into the side of the actual mug and just move the handle out of the way, and it will lay nice and pretty once you're all done with it, so don't worry about that. Here we are finishing the first row of granny square stitches. Go ahead and do 3 rounds of those stitches as always. And thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to check back next Friday for the next Bake Shop series square.